Traffic was crazy busy
Yeah.
too, trying to get into town
Oh
tonight.
yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. We have our opening Wednesday of our First Nations show, but I know there's a lot.
The new HD camera is in. The mics will be coming shortly for the managers. And Mr. Kelly is also mic'd up. So we're all mic'd up. We're ready to go. And again, as I said, we're going live stream. So, declarations of conflict of interest. Seeing none. Okay. Approval of agenda. Moved by Councillor Ramsey, seconded by Councillor McKay. Everything looks okay?
Excuse me, Your Worship.
Yes, sir.
There will be a conflict for me with the planning file on.
Under the Lions?
Crescent.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
And you can, and sir, just so you know, that door now is available.
Thank you very much.
To go out the side, thanks to the communications department, we're allowed to use that ante-room. Mr. Kelly, I think we have to add something under new business.
Discussion after council.
And it won't be long?
No, Your Worship.
No, it has to be dealt with right away.
Council, obviously, but it shouldn't be long, Your Worship.
What's the issue?
It's a issue under, that'll be in a closed session.
Under events.
Okay? Any problem with that? No? Okay, all those in favor of the agenda, approval of the agenda as amended? Great. Okay, adoption of the minutes. We got the minutes of the regular monthly meeting, June 10th. Special meetings, June 5th, 17th, 21st, 28th, all open. Planning public meeting, June 25th. And you'll notice there, Councillor Rivera, that we don't have June 19th, but I did ask Mr. Forbes, that was on the short-term rentals. If you do want the minutes, we can make them available by getting the recording transcribed. But it was more a public information session. You there, Councillor Bernard? Did you make it for that meeting on the short-term rentals that was down at Memorial Hall?
No,
Well, if you want anything, you can know where to get them.
I did read it. Yeah.
So I need an approval of previous draft minutes. Moved by Councillor McLeod, seconded by Councillor Yankoff. Any questions, concerns? All those in favor?
Oh, I got a question.
Oh, you got a question, sir? Which one?
June 10th.
June 10th? Okay. Can you stand up?
Yeah. Just a question.
What part?
Under strategic priorities in governmental affairs.
What page is that?
Councillor Lana, on the dual zone for the unemployment, at the last meeting, I suggested sending a letter to Minister Duco, and just wondering if the letter was sent.
Councillor?
Thank you, Councillor Twill. I did meet with our representative here, our MP Sean Casey, and he advised me that that is something that probably won't happen before the election. So I did add it to our agenda for our next meeting to proceed with the letter that you requested.
Just to follow up.
Go right ahead, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Lana. It's great for the MP to suggest that probably won't happen, but I'm a little more optimistic. I think it can happen. I think it should happen. We've been talking about this now for the last 4 years. Politicians go out and campaign on this particular issue, yet our workers are behind the 8 ball. We have workers in this city that sometimes go 4 months without a check. And I think it's high time that we deal with the cabinet minister that's responsible for this particular in here. And I know the workers are anxious, and I think that we should make this a top priority for this council and send a message to the workforce that we're doing everything in our power to try to create an equal level playing field, because currently that doesn't exist, and it's not fair. Thank you.
And just to add to that, Councillor Yankoff, we did bring it up at the meeting for the 3 mayors, and they plan to take it back to their councils, hopefully to get approval, so it'll be a regional effort. Okay, all those in favor of adopting the minutes as stated? Oh, you have a question, sorry, Councillor Durant.
It's on the special meeting of council on Friday, June the 28th.
28.
At that time, we discussed about allowing an extra year on the insurance policy.
Yes.
And there was a question, was it against policy or legalities? So we were gonna check on that. Mr. Kelly was gonna check on that to see if it was okay to proceed, and given an extra year extension on this. So I'm just wondering, you know, has that been cleared up, or are we good to go? Or?
Mr. Kelly?
Their worship, I did speak to the solicitor after that, and council is discretion, and it is okay.
It is okay. Councillor Joy?
Just to follow up, just so it's okay to go ahead, but is that within the parameters of the policies and procedures of the city? Do we normally go an extra year on this, or is this a one-time thing? You know, I haven't seen this happen before, so that's why I had concerns.
As I understand, the one before this went for 18 odd years, and so 4 years, 5 years is a very significant short stop to that one. And the intent is to go over, again, to go over for a tender with every 3 years with options of 2 years.
Yeah.
So that'll be the effort going forward. But in the past, it went on forever and ever without checks and balances.
I understand that, and that's why when this council came in 2014, we began the process of trying to get tenders on a timely matter, so someone wouldn't have it for 18 years. So, you know, in this case, I'm just wondering if the policies and procedures are being followed, and, you know, I'm just asking that thing.
We have gone for legal, we've gone for
Yeah.
for other contracts as well, so we will continue to do that, especially with banking.
And Mr. Kelly, this is first time in 18 years, so this is a first 3 years plus a year plus a year. So the next tender we're looking at is 3 plus 2.
That's correct.
Correct.
With 2 one-year options, if they're adhering to.
We'll have it
proper
right in the contract.
I thought we did last time.
Didn't happen.
It was 3 plus 1, right?
That's correct.
And we added one.
You added 1, so that wasn't in the contract.
No, it wasn't in the contract, but we added one because we remember we were going to be penalized by $5,000 for 2 months or 6 months, so.
But just, I know I'm getting on my 2 things here, but this came to finance in February, I think.
Right.
And then it came in June, and we all agreed to go ahead. So this was just a sore point for me, why we weren't following what we thought we were gonna do. So that's all I got to say.
Your Worship,
Thank you.
if I may.
Sure, go ahead, sir.
And this was all discussed in a public meeting ahead.
Yeah.
So, and I think that the CAO was asked that question that you had asked, and the answer came back same as we got today. It's up to council's discretion. The previous contract we had was at least 18 years. So we did go out, Councilor John, 4 years ago. And so as of discussion, the last public meeting we had on this, council had decided to extend it for another year to make sure we had the liability and moving on, because it was to expire at the end of this month, I believe.
That's right, and I think we're going to get a
And we had
good,
those conversations.
we're going to have a good deal this time, so it's to the benefit of the city.
Yep. Thank you.
Could I respond to Councilor Bernard? Thank you for clearing that up, Councilor
Yeah.
Bernard. I was there at the meeting too, and I realized that what I'm saying is it's not a good deal for the city if we don't continuously go out for tender. I mean, you can't pick one and not the other. There's a policies and procedures that we follow
Yep.
here.
Yep.
And I think it's only fair to do what we decided to do 4 or 5 years ago. You know, we refer to this, it hasn't been done in 18 years, but we're trying to get policies and procedures in place that tenders are given out
Yep.
every 3 or 4, or if this tender you want to go for 5 years, that's fine, as long as it's an even playing field for everyone.
Yep.
And that's where I have a concern, that we went out, we did get the 3,
Yep.
we did get an extra year, this is another year. And I know it's at council's discretion, but I just don't think, I believe that we shouldn't be doing this.
Yep.
Like I said, that's my point.
Okay,
Just wanted to-
I think we've had enough. Just, guys, excuse me, I shouldn't say that, but councilors, like, we did make the decision. It was voted by council, if I remember, correct? And the vote went to go
at
with the
discretion,
extension.
yeah.
So, let's,
There's a concern about legality.
yeah, and we got that straightened out.
Got that straightened out?
Yep.
That's what I want. Thank you.
Is there a wish to approve the minutes of the June 5th, 17th, 21st, 28th, the public meeting June 25th, and of course the regular monthly meeting? Moved by Councillor Ramsey, seconded by Councillor Yankoff. All those in favor? Okay. Business arising from the Well, I think we've already dealt with that, unless we have something else. No? Okay. Reports of committees. Councillor Rivard, Planning and Heritage.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Planning Board met on Tuesday, July 2nd. There is a copy of the minutes in your binders. Heritage Board and Design Review Board didn't meet during the month of June. There's 8 resolutions for council's viewing, I guess, tonight. And I do want to take a few minutes here and recognize one of our own. This gentleman is not only a great planner and leader, but also someone I am proud to call my friend, Mr. Alex Forbes. This past week, Mr. Forbes was in Ottawa attending the 2019 CIP National Conference, the 100th anniversary of the founding of the Canadian Institute for Planners of 1919. Mr. Forbes, this was more than just attending a yearly conference, one that he's attended many times before, much more. Alex was elected, on July 4th, Mr. Forbes was given a very prestigious award. Alex was elected into the College of Fellows within the Canadian Institute of Planners. And just to give you a bit more context, since January 2015, only 21 planners across our beautiful country, including Mr. Forbes, have received this great honor. This is right from the website. Election as a Fellow of the Canadian Institute of Planners is the highest award the Institute can give to a planner. This honor recognizes excellence, identifies prominent role models, promotes advances in planning practices, and draws leaders to the forefront of planning in Canada. Such professional attainment and experience must be significant at the national or international planning context. Fellows proudly use the designation FCIP to denote Fellow of the Canadian Institute of Planners. I am very pleased and proud to be able to stand here in front of Mayor, Council, fellow city staff, and the thousands viewing us live tonight to recognize...
You have a number, do you? I didn't know that.
To recognize the great accomplishments. And thank you, Alex, for your leadership and guidance. And on behalf of myself, again, Mayor and Council, I would like to say congratulations and a very well-deserved award. Thank
you. Well done, Alex.
And we will be hosting, we'll have the date confirmed, but we're going to do some kind of award ceremony for Mr. Forbes sometime in the near future.
Yeah, a little party.
Yes, so stay
Now,
tuned.
Jordan.
But again, Alex, I know how hard you work, and again, thank you for everything you do, and to get this recognition is huge for you. So, any questions? I'll be happy to answer.
Oh, Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you for your report, Councillor Rivard. Councillor Rivard, over the last month or so, we've been hauled into the spotlight regarding the addition of an asphalt plant in an industrial zone being permitted or being considered as a permitted use within in the heavy industrial area. During the course of the media reports and the public meetings and the council meetings here and the decisions made and that, continually to me it seemed that erroneous information was being circulated throughout the community and throughout the city. And could I ask you tonight to kind of review the whole situation here in the public venue, starting basically with council's decision to go to a public meeting on, I believe it was March the 27th. Was the proper advertising done in order to call people to that public meeting? Also, I've heard some innuendo that if there is ever an application to put a second asphalt plant in that area, that it would be placed on the corner of the Sherwood Road and the Practice Point Road. You and I know that is the furthest thing from the truth, so could you advise the general public what zoning that particular corner is? I believe it is industrial park, but I'm not sure. Anyway, it doesn't have a permitted use for an asphalt plant, so that's also false. So would you kind of bring us forward up to date with the facts? The reason I ask this, I read a report in the Guardian the following day after the second reading was passed by this council, and in that someone stated that this issue could have been handled in a better way. I don't see how it could be handled in a better way. We followed all the rules. We did the advertising. We followed everything to a T. So that when someone says that it's on council, when it says that and gets out into the general public, it kind of casts a shadow on the rest of us here. So could you kind of review for the public's sake? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Where do I start with this?
I know, it's a long history.
So I guess with regards to the property itself, I believe it's owned, that parcel of land is owned by Cavendish Farms.
Yeah.
The portion at the very corner is, if you're referring to, I don't think that is the property in question.
No.
I think that it's in by a little bit, but not a lot.
It's by the trail,
Yeah, yeah.
Federation Trail, where
So it's not right at the corner, if that's what
no,
you refer to as not
Urban
the
Crane
corner.
is.
So I don't know if that's the first one, or the second one. As for the process, I don't know the exact dates, but the process we believe was followed to a T when it comes to the planning process that's outlined, and Mr. Forbes, you can attest to this or not. I think the one piece that was in the middle of that, I think Councillor Vote and I were at a planning board meeting. We talked about, deferring the decision at the planning board level, so we moved that piece separately from the rest in order to talk to the province about, potentially getting an environmental review on that space prior to even making a vote. Came back to our attention that they couldn't do it, had to be an application put in order to kind of to start the process. So that wasn't done. So it was back to planning again to vote. It was recommended from the committee to send it to council for approval at the time, and I think council approved it 6-4, I believe.
646454.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, the part, I guess, in the process that probably would have went sideways a little bit, and we talked about this last meeting, was I think Councillor Tweel, I think you put a motion on the floor to defer, to go back to the public. I think that's where the mix-up happened, because again, it did go to a public meeting. And now, again, keep in mind too, there's a difference between process and optics. I think this is where I think we're missing big time, is the fact that, from the resident standpoint or business standpoint, or those who oppose, didn't believe that the process, they believe it was something was being done underhanded or behind the scenes or whatever it may be, but it wasn't. It was part of the process. And yeah, like I said, it's optics versus policy or process. And the process, I mean, again, according to Mr. Forbes and anyone we talked to, was followed. So I really don't know what else to add on that. I mean, again, the decision's made, and we have to kind of see where it goes from here. And I don't know what. As for, can we do it better? I don't know. I mean, the process. Council approves policies, and they're there for a purpose, to help guide us. So as long as the policies were followed and the process was followed, then I don't know if there's a better way.
Is that all right, sir? Councillor Tweel, did you have your name up here? Is it to speak to the report?
Thank you for your report, Councillor. Appreciate it. Just want to ask you a question about the process when it comes to design review. When the design review committee makes a recommendation, does it come to council and council votes on their recommendation, and they just make that decision arbitrarily?
What, on rezoning?
No, when the design review committee
Yeah.
approves a design review,
Yeah.
does it come back to council for a vote, or is it done arbitrarily?
No, it doesn't have to come back to council. It states in our process and bylaws that they can make that decision. Unless they are uncomfortable making that decision, they can elect to send it to council, but design review are there for that purpose, and it doesn't come to council.
It's for professional.
Unless they're uncomfortable and don't want to make a decision, they can send to council.
You're getting professional advice too.
Correct.
Second time, sir.
Yeah, the reason why I asked the question, and I've talked about this in the chamber here the last couple of months,
Yeah.
is I wonder now, we're starting to create a precedent when it comes to buildings in the downtown. We talk about the historic significance of downtown Charlottetown, the aesthetics, the ambiance, the streetscapes, the character of the buildings, the facades, exterior. And I guess what concerns me is the design review committee approved 4th and 5th floor for industrial siding as opposed to the brick finish. That's why I asked the question, if it comes back to council, so council renders the decision to accept or reject a recommendation from an advisory committee. So we have an advisory committee now arbitrarily making that decision for us. And I think there's 2 or 3 elected officials, there's resident members on that committee. Then the question becomes, who's accountable? Who is accountable? So that's why I asked the question. And second to that, is the new norm now for, steel-sided, finish in downtown Charlottetown? Is that the reason that's created? No. I say that and ask that question with all sincerity. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor Spiel. Again, I'm the furthest professional when it comes to heritage. The Heritage Review, Design Review Board and Heritage Review, for that matter, these would have gone through a design review. We approved to have this, this facet put in place to help, avoid any kind of, I'll say, issues with the decor of downtown and the ambiance. So again, we send these out to professionals. They come back with feedback. We have professionals in the design review board who
Engineers, architects,
are way more knowledgeable on this kind of stuff than anyone in this room. And that's no insult to anyone in this room. That's just their job and their profession. So we heavily rely on them for their expertise. As for steel siding being allowed, I mean, it's tough to say. I mean, you have to look at the materiality in the area, I guess, and if it's something that's symbolic of maybe, like, say, the downtown, or there's No, I'm saying metal may have been used in the past or something. It may be symbolic. I don't know. But anyways, it seems to fit the model for these folks, and they're the professionals, and we let
So,
them guide us.
Mr. Chair, would you mind if councillors came to that design review meeting and listened in on the discussions? Do you have any problem?
It's open to
I
everyone.
don't. Would you, Julie, Councillor McCabe, at the meeting? No, so,
It's open door.
yeah, and I think some of the discussions we had the last time were quite interesting. So, it's open, right, sir?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so please do come.
Point of order.
Go ahead.
Point of order. No, that's not what I was asking, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
What I
no,
was
just
asking-
stand up and ask him.
What I was asking Mr. Mayor was, and you attended that meeting, was the decision is made arbitrarily to accept the final product by the advisory board as opposed to it coming before council. Council's directly accountable and responsible for the final decisions when it comes to planning, when it comes to heritage, whatever the case may be. So I just find it very peculiar that in this particular instance, you got the advisory board making the decision on the final finish of a building in between 2 designated buildings in downtown Charlottetown. And I just asked the question, sir, maybe you can help me, who's accountable?
Well, you were at Quebec, in the Quebec conference, and I mentioned this the last meeting. They're redoing an old, like a heritage theater, and I saw the photo in the Le Soleil, and it shows how it's connecting to the building next to it with glass structure. So these are 2 historical structures in the most historical city, I would say, in North America, and they're also using new materials to integrate with their existing heritage structure. I think that's where we're coming from on this. But, Councillor Rivard, is it all right if Mr. Forbes gives his opinion? Mr. Councillor Drum, Councillor Drum, could you just put your mic down so we can make sure that, just make sure that way we can get it on by. Thank you.
Your Worship, the way that the process works, the council are the people that implemented the rules and regulations for the downtown in the 500 lot plan. So all of those design features are in there. So when we bring in a design reviewer, the design reviewer doesn't say he likes it or he doesn't like it. He says this is what you've asked for in your plan. He reviews our plan in detail. He looks at those architectural requirements that are in the plan. So, to a certain degree, council is overseeing that because they're the ones that set the policy for what the design of the downtown looks like. So, and again, we use them. They're a tremendous resource to us because they're highly qualified. As Councillor Rivard had indicated, if there's a dispute between staff, if a design review comes back and we don't agree with it, we can send it to the board. If there's a dispute between the staff and the board, it comes to council. But that hasn't happened because the process works very well and people will adjust and change because the design professionals can work those things out. In my humble opinion, it's working very, very effectively.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Drum.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a comment with Councillor Duffy's. He asked about the asphalt plant and to explain things. I asked a number of years ago, and I think we got into a little bit of a jam here. It's like, I don't know, Councillor Vard, if it's 100 meters or 100 yards, or is that where we go with letters? I think in this case, you know, everybody on the Sherwood Road or the surrounding area, they didn't know about this until it was passed and gone through. I'm wondering, do we change policy about this rather than just giving a notice out, you know, a certain amount of yards? Like I said, the business community didn't know about it. So is there something that we can change to engulf a bigger area that's affected? I can understand if it's in, you know, in my ward on a dead-end street and it only affects 3 people. But if it's in this case, it's affecting the business community, the residents, and a whole surrounding area. I wonder if there's a better way of communicating with everybody to see if, you know, a certain amount of years to make everyone aware.
Thank you, Councillor Duran. Case, then letters are sent out to anyone within 100 meters of that location. Do amendments. I think I mentioned 2 meetings ago. I think we had 50 plus meter amendments. They're handled a bit differently. They don't the area. So amendments tend to go through a different process, which is that of newspaper ads, radio ads, and I believe it's on the website. But there's no letter sent out to residents, not even 10 feet away. So that's the difference between the rezoning versus the amendment piece. Hope that.
I know what you're saying, Councillor. We can take that under advisement and bring it up at the next planning committee meeting with sports.
Perfect, thank you.
Can we go with your first,
Your Worship?
through this? 5:30. Yes, sir.
No, I want to
Councillor, go ahead,
just
go ahead.
a suggestion. I understand what Councillor Duran is saying. And I was just going to say, what I do, and you know, when there's a zoning change, and you're right, it only goes to 100 meters. And as a representative of the area, what I'll do is I'll do up newsletters to everyone, because to me it's not a 100-meter decision to be made. So something that's important to the community and it feels like it's a community decision, then yes, I will do up newsletters and I'll advise them of the meeting, when the meeting's going to be held, and what it's about. So something you may want to consider, because it does get the message out there.
Okay, sir. Get that first motion.
Yeah.
Your Worship,
Oh.
moved by Councillor Vard, second by Councillor Cody, Deputy Mayor Cody, that the request to obtain a site-specific exemption of the waterfront zone for 4A Prince Street, PID 841536, in order to construct a 7-story mixed-use development and allow the applicant to enter into an agreement with the city to provide 20 standard parking spaces off-lot on Harbor Authority parking lot at 3 Stan McPherson Way, PID 335430, for a period of not less than 10 years, which is contrary to the zoning and development bylaw C8ZB 2, be approved to proceed to public consultation, Your Worship.
Just to go to public consultation. Question call. Question call. There we go.
Keep her up.
Your Worship, moved by Councillor Vard, by Mayor Cody, for variance to decrease the minimum lot area requirement for a 12-unit townhouse in the R3 zone from 2,640 square meters to 2,387.6 square meters, and B, decrease the rear yard setback requirement from 7.5 meters to 3.6 meters in order to construct 6 additional dwellings for the property located at 16 May Point Road, PID 777920, be approved, subject to the removal of the proposed access point and parking lot off of Birch Grove Road. Birch Grove, for sure. Your worship, moved by Councillor Barrett, seconded by Deputy Mayor Cody, that the request for a variance to reduce the required lot frontage from 20 meters to approximately 16 meters in order to permit the existing 4 residential dwelling units at 29 Old King Square, PID 344713 be approved, subject to the following conditions. A, occupancy permits are issued on all the additional dwelling units based upon the completion of all required work, upgrades to the dwelling units in the building as per the requirements of the building and development permit. And B, that the existing surface driveway that leads out to the crosswalk at the corner of Old King Square and William Street to be decommissioned and restored with landscaping.
Councillor Duffy, that's Danny Leonard, his old barber shop. Remember it well. Question, comments?
Your worship, we're Councillor Barrett, seconded by Deputy Mayor Cody, that request to amend Appendix A, future land use map of the official plan from low-density residential to medium-density residential, and B, amend Appendix G, zoning map of the zoning development bylaw from a single... Excuse me.
Sorry, go ahead. Just quick, because I ain't doing this, sir. First one.
Again, your worship, moved by Councillor Barrett, seconded by Deputy Mayor Cody, that request to amend Appendix A, future land use map of the official plan from low-density residential to medium-density residential, and B, amend Appendix G, the zoning map of the zoning development bylaw from a single detached residential zone to the medium-density residential zone for the property located at 7 Lions Crescent, PID 278721, be approved.
Questions?
Your worship, by Councillor Barrett, seconded by Deputy Mayor Cody, that the request to amend Appendix A, future land use map of the official plan from low-density residential to commercial, and B, amend Appendix G, the zoning map of the zoning development bylaw from low-density residential zone to parking zone for the property located at 221 Belvedere Avenue, PID 395087, be approved to proceed to public consultation. Your worship, moved by Councillor Barrett, seconded by Deputy Mayor Cody, that the request to amend Appendix G, zoning map of the zoning and development bylaw from single-density residential to narrow single-density residential for the property on the corner of Miller Street, Pearson Street, Hanover Street, PID 530980 be withdrawn. Your worship, moved by Councillor Barrett, seconded by Deputy Mayor Cody, that the request to amend Appendix A, future land use map of the official plan from low-density residential to medium-density residential, and B, amend Appendix G, zoning map of the zoning and development bylaw from low-density residential zone to the medium-density residential zone for properties at 71 and 73 Upper Prince Street, PID 683748 and PID 359521, in order to construct 6 additional apartment units to create a 12-unit apartment building, be approved to proceed to public consultation.
Yep. That's irrelevant. Question I have, pardon me? Yeah, if council decides it's going to a public council, okay, great. Now, Councillor Rivera, today I had a chance to speak with one of the staff in the planning department. I asked what the what's being proposed here. Apartment building, short-term rentals. What exactly are we doing here? What are we going to the public with? Couldn't answer the question. Now, we know what happened back on Upper Prince Street, Young Street. We approved a development. A lot of enthusiasm around that particular development, only to find out later what was being proposed to council was a complete total opposite. Before we go to the public consultation process, residents start asking questions. We need more information. So I want to know exactly what's being proposed. Okay, gone down this road before, once bitten, twice shy. So what I'm asking the council to support me on a deferral till we find out if it's truly apartment buildings, short-term rentals, Airbnbs, whatever the case may be. Before we go to the public, I want to know exactly what the vote is. There. Deferral.
Just 1 second, Councillor Weaver.
Thank you, Councillor Tweel. Well, we know what we're voting on, because it says right here, it says addition of 6 apartment units. The use is the question I think that Councillor Tweel is referring to, and not so much the apartment itself. I say, why not go to the public meeting? Why not ask the applicant what their plans are? That way the public knows. And then if we need to defer it afterwards before voting next time around, that's the time to defer. I don't think deferring it to a public meeting would help now. I'd rather hear from the public, hear what the applicant has to say, and then render a decision at that point. So I think if there's a deferral, it should be happening after this.
Councillor Wheel?
Well, it'd be nice when you send out the letter, the residents know exactly what's being proposed, as opposed to being could be, maybe, should be, don't know, not sure. And then, no, let me finish. And then, you gotta remember the time of the year too. Now we're into the summer, people are away, people are at the cottage, visiting friends, could be out of the province, and all of a sudden, you know, they're not really engaged because time of the year, it's nice weather, people wanna be doing other things. I think the accurate information should be in the letter that's sent out to the residents. It's only fair, so if it's long-term rentals, then it should illustrate that in the letter. So the residents know full well, before we even go to the public consultation, as to exactly what's being proposed in the document. So I'll move it deferral.
Okay, so is there a seconder for the deferral? You have a seconder for the deferral? Councillor Strawn. Okay, so we're going to discuss the deferral. Anything to discuss the deferral? Anyone on?
Can I just speak to
Councillor Revert, and if you want to bring in your manager, you can too.
No, I'm good. No,
Okay.
I'm quite capable, thank you.
Yeah, I know that.
Again, we're talking about 6 additional apartment units, and again, I don't understand what Councillor Tweel is talking about when he says we don't know what's being proposed here. They're proposing 6 additional, I'm reading it right here, 6 additional apartment units to create. That's what we're doing. Again, I still think asking the contractor or the applicant what their use is going to be or what their purposes are, I think is the right thing. If they can't give an answer at that point, and the council then has a decision, I guess at that point, they can defer it until they get more answers. But to sit there and say that we're in the summer months and we're not going to deal with anything because the public's out on vacation, then we may as well close shop here, right, from a planning perspective. So if I can have the next 2 months off, that'd be great.
Okay, Councillor.
Well, you know, it's pretty interesting, Councillor, right? Do you remember the horror show that took place up in Upper Prince Street and Yonge Street? Remember when the residents found out? Well, it wasn't long-term rentals, it was short-term rentals. Do you remember what you said to the press? There's nothing we can do. It's out of our hands. So I'm trying to be proactive here, trying to get the information at the beginning of the process as opposed to the end of the process. We even called the solicitor in to give us some options, and nobody wanted to take on the developer. So what happened was you had a community that felt totally disengaged, totally misled, and so was City Council. I'm trying to be proactive so we don't go down the same road as we did the last time. So what's wrong with finding out from the developer now what the intentions are? I don't think that's being unreasonable. In fact, I think it's being reasonable. I think it's being responsible.
Councillor McCabe.
I think just kind of trying to clarify what we did discuss in planning, because there was discussion around short-term and
Oh,
long-term.
there was.
Yes, there was.
Oh,
But we don't have anything in place here yet, which we decided we need to kind of get going on that to make sure that things are in place. We don't have any policy around short-term rentals or long-term rentals right now. Right now, like Councillor Rivard said, we were looking at the 6 additional unit apartments.
Councillor Revert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, going back to the previous application on Yonge Street, I mean, again, we did talk about this, and yeah, our hands were tied because we dealt with the land use. The land use was an apartment. That's what was being proposed, was an apartment. That was the land use. What happened inside the apartment, that's where we need the regulations. That's why we're going down the road we're going, okay? So again, we're dealing with the land use here, and not so much the purpose, long-term versus short-term. We're dealing with that in a separate public process, if you will. So again, they're 2 separate issues. To sit there and delay defer something because we think it's gonna be something, I think it's poor practice on our part. And I think that we need to go to a public process to figure and ask those questions. If we're uncomfortable at that point, then we can defer it next month.
Yeah, so Councillor Twill, you, as mover, you're speaking the second time, so this is the end of the
Yeah,
discussion.
that's right. So,
Yeah.
so Councilor McCabe's quite correct. It was discussed at the planning committee about short-term rentals, and he just said it himself. Chair of planning just said it himself. Well, there's really nothing we can do. So what are we doing? What kind of process is this? I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm trying to avoid it from happening. I talked to those residents, and they felt betrayed. So we had no mechanism in place to protect the integrity of the neighborhood and the community. No mechanism whatsoever. Man, oh man, oh man. What are we doing here? And to suggest, well, there's nothing we can do, then maybe we should put the brakes on, implement a couple of mechanisms to give council that protection so that we can protect the community. We're the ones that are responsible.
Let's just try to be professional here. I think Councillor Rivard does a lot of work at this committee level. And you know what? We're looking for some people, some councillors to replace another person, so there's an opening. So Councillor Rivard, I understand what...
Point of order, Your
No, no,
Point of order.
we've ended the discussion.
You say I'm
We've ended-
unprofessional?
Yeah.
You owe me an apology.
No,
I'm getting tired of
no,
your cheap shots
you've
from the
ended-
air.
we've ended
That's
the
a cheap
discussion.
shot.
No, it was not.
Yes, it was.
No, you can
Cheap
sit on,
shot.
you can sit on the committee if you want.
Yeah? What would you do? Vote one way and then saying you're
Oh,
opposed to it.
So
the
is
other
that
way?
being respectful?
Okay.
Is that being respectful? Yeah,
Right.
thank you. Thank you. So let's vote on the deferral. Okay, so on the deferral, we have in favor, Duran, Councillor Tweel, Councillor McCabe, those against, Rivard, Councillor Yankoff, Councillor McLeod, Councillor Cody, Bernard, and Duffy, and Ramsey. So, deferral is right? Correct? Let's go back to the main motion. Can you read it over again, sir, please? Let's go to a public consultation. Oh. No, that's not that. Okay.
Your Worship, moved by Councillor Barrett, seconded by Deputy Mayor Cody, that the request to amend Appendix A, future land use map of the official plan from low-density residential to medium-density residential, and B, amend Appendix G, zoning map of the zoning development bylaw from low-density residential zone to the medium-density residential zone for the properties located at 71 and 73 Upper Spring Street, PID 383748 and PID 359521, in order to construct 6 additional apartment units to create a 12-unit apartment building, be approved to proceed to public consultation.
Okay. Question called? Okay, so it's 9-1 in favor and Councillor Tweel opposed.
Your Worship, moved by Councillor Barrett, seconded by Deputy Mayor Cody, resolve that the request for a variance to decrease the required lot frontage from 65.6 feet to approximately 45.9 feet in order to convert the existing 3-unit dwelling into a 4-unit dwelling for the property at 38 to 40 Hillsborough Street, PID 337535, be approved.
Question called? Okay. Okay, and it's 10-0. Carried.
Moved by Councillor Rivera, seconded by Deputy Mayor Cody, to adopt a bylaw PHZ2.2016, a bylaw to amend the zoning and development. You should step away.
Oh, yes, this lines again. All right.
You're on your toes there, Councillor.
To adopt bylaw PHZ2.2016, a bylaw to amend the zoning and development bylaw to rezone the property at 7 Lions Crescent, PID 278721, from a single detached residential zone to the medium-density residential zone. Be resolved that the bylaw to amend the City of Charlottetown zoning and development bylaw PHZ2.2016 as it pertains to 7 Lions Crescent, PID 278721, as attached, be read a first time.
Shall I carry?
Question.
Question on it, sir? First reading there, sir?
Yeah.
Councillor Kelly? Councillor Kelly?
Oh, yeah. At the meeting, the issues that come up at the meeting was traffic concerns. Were the traffic concerns addressed by the police department?
Your Worship, I'll refer that to Alex Forbes because they can actually answer from please.
Councillor Duran, again, can you just point your mic down to him, please? Just wanted to make sure everything's recorded.
Your Worship, we did a response from the police department, and they were of the opinion that the roadway there could handle that traffic. You mentioned that the sidewalk, and where the sidewalk should be, but the issue of the sidewalk is really, that's an issue for us, the city, to deal with. It's a part of a capital works project. So, but the issue of the increased traffic, the police department have looked at it, and they're comfortable allowing this project to proceed. Thank you, Worship.
Yes, sir.
Councillor Tweedle, just with a little jab there saying I wasn't at the meeting. You're right. I attended my graduation for my daughter, graduating grade 6, so I apologize for missing the meeting, but sometimes family takes presence over council in a public meeting, so I do apologize for missing that meeting.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Your Worship, moved by Councillor Barrett, second by Deputy Mayor Cody, be it resolved that the zoning and development amendment bylaw, P8Z2.2016, be approved and that it be read a second time at the next public meeting of council.
Okay. Shall I carry?
Pass.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, sir. I'm going to put this right here. Can you tell Councillor McLeod to come back in? Please? Are we signing here? This one or down here? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Your Worship, be resolved that the bylaw to amend the City of Charlottetown zoning development bylaw 2018-1118 as it pertains to 185 Brackley Point Road, PID 390963, as attached, be read for first time. Moved by Councillor Rivard, second by Mayor Cody.
Shall pass. Thanks, sir.
No, I apologize, Your Worship.
Was it already read?
Yes.
Okay.
Down below. Whereas the bylaw to amend the City of Charlottetown zoning development bylaw 2018-11018 as it pertains to 185 Brackley Point Road, PID 390963, as attached, was read and approved a first time on June 10th, 2019, by Councillor Barrett, second by Deputy Mayor Cody. Be resolved that the said bylaw be read a second time, Your Worship.
Okay. Shall it pass?
Your Worship, moved by Councillor Barrett, second by Councillor Deputy Mayor Cody. Be resolved that the said bylaw be approved and adopted.
Okay, so that's 10-0. Okay, sir.
Your Worship, whereas the bylaw to amend the City of Charlottetown zoning and development bylaw 2018-11019 as pertains to zoning and development amendments as attached was read and approved for the first time on June 10th, 2019. Moved by Councillor Barrett, second by Deputy Mayor Cody. Be it resolved that the said bylaw be read a second time.
Shall it pass?
Your Worship, moved by Councillor Barrett, second by Deputy Mayor Cody. Be it resolved that the said bylaw be approved and adopted.
Sir, 10-0. You want to check those? Are all right? Take it back, Lauren. Okay, sir. Councillor Rivard, is there anything else?
Unless you want some more.
No. Good job, good job. Thank you, Councillor Rivard. Councillor Yankee.
Thank you, Your Worship.
I want to just tell you that she's a great baseball player. She played yesterday. Barefoot.
Barefoot, I heard
Barefoot.
that. Barefoot. Oh, no, ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barefoot ladies.
Wait, you're
Barefoot ladies. Good sport. She's a good sport.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Strategic Priorities and Intergovernmental Cooperation Committee met on July the 8th, and all the information is in your package. And I do have 2 resolutions for your consideration, and I will just a little bit of clarification on those. The first one, you'll see that we have a resolution in there for us to proceed with a fire department process instead of the two that we exist with right now. And the second one, which might add a little bit of confusion, is the resolution where we are looking at securing a piece of land in East Royalty for future use, if and when the Sherwood Fire Department, if the provincial government decides to take that piece of property back,
Right.
so that we have something secured for in our future. So if anyone has any other questions, I'm happy to. And the only other thing I want to point out is that our Affordable Housing Advisory Committee met on June the 12th, and they're working on their terms of reference. So I'm excited to report back to you on how that goes in our future. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. See no questions? Want to read the first resolution there?
Yes, sure.
Kelly?
Moved by Councillor Yankoff, seconded by Councillor Bernard, that as per strategic priorities and intergovernmental cooperation committee discussions pertaining to the city's fire services long-term strategic location strategy, that the city of Charlottetown work towards initiating and implementing a 3-station system. Your worship.
Question called. So would you please go to your vote and vote in? Okay, sir.
Your worship, we got Councillor Yankoff, that was Councillor Bernard, whereas the city of Charlottetown has decided to implement a 3-station system, and whereas the city has reviewed its coverage area, therefore be resolved that the city of Charlottetown write a letter to the province of Prince Edward Island to express its desire to purchase the provincially owned land between Norwood Road and Charlottetown Arterial Highway, PID unassigned, a map is though attached, to secure the site for a future fire station, and be it further resolved that the city confirm with the province its ability to do so.
Councillor Duran.
Thank you, Worship. Councillor Yankoff, I just have a bit of a concern here. We did buy a piece of land out in West Royalty, and that was supposed to be for the third fire station. Is this come with a price tag, or is it just an expression of interest that we're telling the province that we may be interested in? Has there been something about site number 2? Have other sites been looked at? All these questions come up before, to sit here and vote. We're not any further ahead than we were probably this time last year about where we're going with the West Royalty one. I'm just wondering, is this, the price and all this stuff, is this included, or is it just an expression of interest?
Thank you, Councillor Duran. I think we're a little bit further than we are this time last year, but one thing, when it comes to the property that we're speaking to in East Royalty, it's an ideal spot for in the future if we're looking down the road. Because of the new bypass that's going in there, it would give the ability for a new fire station if and when the government wants their building back in Sherwood, because it will take you, if you've seen the plans for the new little rotary there, it will take you right through to all of the areas, getting into all of the areas of Charlottetown. So right now, it's an expression of interest.
Yeah.
It's a first right of refusal for when that piece of property is available, and that's.
So again, it's expression of interest, right? We're not
That's all. Rest of interest, no money involved right at this point in time, so there'll be a lot of work have to come before.
prepping the ground.
Thank you.
Councillor Bernard.
Thank you, yours. To add to Councillor Yankoff, it's good to get it resolved, because I know the firemen in that district have obviously been wondering what's going on with the city as far as 2 stations to 3 stations. So that's now solved. We've had those discussions we voted on tonight, so we're going with 3 stations. So Station 1 will stay, Station 2 in Sherwood will stay, and we're moving on Station 3 in West Royalty. This here come up, and we have met with Ministry of Transportation Public Works asking about this particular piece of property.
Steve Myers, yeah.
And could it become available to the city of Charlottetown for a future fire station? Because at some point, if Station 2 does close, where do you move it to?
Yeah.
And this seems to be a logical and a perfect location. It has access to the road, bypass highway, Peter's Road either way. The province seemed to, in our discussions, thought that was a really good use for it. As far as a lot of money, it may end up being $1.
We don't know.
We don't know. That's why we want to send a letter to them and get a response back.
Yeah, and it's just expression of interest. Councillor Ramsey.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've been asked the same questions for
That was a good question.
Yeah, you know, that was a great question. You answered all the questions. So he just,
Thank you kindly.
he's fast on the trigger.
If you're honest.
The one-armed bandit.
Oh, my thunder.
Okay.
I'll make it.
Yep, no more questions? The question was called there? Okay, all those in favor? Which one is it? 0. There you are, sir. There's your, get them out of there. Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Yankoff. Next time we play baseball, we'll get some cleats for you.
Where to play and barefoot, sir?
Finance. Councillor Bernard.
Your worship, I have to get some high-heeled. Anyway, your worship, first of all, I do want to introduce to everybody our new finance manager, Mark Lanigan. Mark, welcome aboard. Mark here by the 3rd, and glad to have him on board. Well, Paul.
Good man.
So your worship.
Sturgeon. Mannequin from Sturgeon.
I hear that. Your worship, our committee met July the 3rd. Answer in your packets. There's 2 resolutions, your worship, and we have the first quarter financial summary in the package. So, your worship, if there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
Okay, Councillor Dwan.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Councillor Bernard, for your report, and
Yep.
and it's nice to meet you, Mr. Lanigan. I've been trying for the last number of months. Again, I'm here, but now we have a finance manager here. So this is a request for information related to the December 31st financial statements, audits for the city, water, sewer corporation, and the pension plans. Section 93.7 of the MGA provides a councillor with the authority to request and obtain information from an employee of the city. Section 93.7 states, a council member or member of a committee established by a council may communicate directly with an employee of the municipality to obtain or provide information. Section 93.7, when I referred to it at the first, clearly establishes the council's right to request and obtain information. For several months now, I have requested copies of the letters provided by the auditors identifying items of concerns noted during the audits of the city, the Water Sewer Corporation, 2 pension funds for the December 31st, 2017 year end. To date, these requests for the management letters have been denied. Withholding such information significantly impairs my ability to provide oversight and fulfill my responsibilities as required by the MGA. As such, I formally request from you, under Section 93.7, a complete copy of the communications to those charged with governments, aka management letters, provided by the auditors for all financial statements audits completed. A complete listing of all findings, observations, issues, or concerns noted during the financial statements audits, which were excluded from the communications to those charged with governance, aka the management letters, and rationale for that exclusion. Thirdly and finally, I want copies of all communications of issues noted during the audits, which were communicated to the province by the auditors as required by the MGA. And like I said, this takes a lot of time and effort on my behalf. I'm not aware of everything. You have to study it. I want those letters, and I've asked for them for 5-6 months now. I want to be able to put pieces of the puzzle that I believe are in place. So I'm requesting the chair, through the new manager, to give me all that information. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Bernard.
Thank you. So any audit information that you require, and you're right, you're reading the act, and all that's been given to council. Any audit information, any financial information is forwarded. As far as the management letter, it's to management. We were supposed to put on the agenda, by the way.
We didn't get it.
We didn't.
Yeah, there was a couple of other items, too.
Yeah, so we will put that on.
Yeah.
Our intention has always been, management letter, I know Councilor Hancock suggests them in all the time, since he knows quite what they're about. There's nothing sneaky or hidden, it's just recommendations that the auditors make once she does a report. Our intention is to, I believe they're 85% done of the recommendations. We'll have the management recommendations, and we'll show what the acts left for recommendations. We're just waiting for that to be complete. Thank you.
Councillor Tweel up there first. Councillor Tweel.
Thank you for your report, Councillor Bernard.
Yeah.
Can you talk about please explain tendering process in terms of accepting the lowest bid whenever we go out for goods and services? The Atlantic Procurement Agreement, the MGA, accepting the lowest bid, and why we're required to accept the lowest bid, if you could, please.
And I think where you're coming from, Councillor, is where it says that the city does not have to always accept the lowest bid. So all of our tenders, and so normally you go out to tender, you're looking for the lowest bid. The clause is in there to protect the city, so if there's been a service provider or an issue that's been tracked, that the lowest bidder have a history, the city can bypass that lowest bid and go to the next one. Other than that, so as far as a tender comes in, and if it's a higher price, unless it's a rating system, there has to be a reason that the city would not take the lowest price. You can't just willy-nilly say, you know what, I like this provider over this provider, even though he's higher, I'd like to take him. There has to be a reason. If there's no reason, then the city's obligated to take the lowest bid, or see in court.
Councillor Duran. Second question, sir.
I know it's my second time. Like I said, for the last 5 or 6 months, I've been asking for this. I've been walked around the room. Every month, I don't get it. So I have a letter here that I'd like to give to the new manager of finance. And this outlines what I'm asking for. I don't want to be asked to come over and see these things. I'm requesting specific information. I want the information here. I've asked for it for 6 months.
Yep.
So who can I give this to?
You're going to table it with the CAO, and he will put it through the system because he's the CAO of administration.
Perfect. That's all I want. I want it looked at and just give me the information. Thank you.
Okay, so can we take the first resolution? Where do you want to put it? Little text.
Worship, just a little background on this resolution, just to let them know. This was a property that was purchased for doing the well field in Milton. When we had paid $375,000 for that property, Your Worship. It was a little over 16 acres in a residential property. The well field is now completed. We're selling the residential property and I believe 3.5 acres of the land left.
Yeah.
So we have what we want to protect the new well field. And so, Your Worship, we paid $375, and we have an offering for $345 for what's left. So,
No, it's a good deal.
Yep.
Could you let him read the resolution first? If you want to add any more information, sir? Go ahead, sir.
Your Worship, moved by Councillor Bernard, seconded by Councillor Rivard, be it resolved that the council approve the sale of 614 Malpark Road, PID 572982, residential portion of property acquired for Milton Vale Wellfield Development. The property was purchased 2012, 16.22 acres at a price of $375,000, with the reservoir being complete, 12.2 acres retained. The residential portion of the property, 3.4 acres, can be sold. An offer of $345,000 has been received through the real estate brokers, and further that the mayor and CEO are hereby authorized to execute standard contract agreements required to implement this resolution, Your Worship.
Do you want to add anything to that, Councillor?
No, I
Bernard?
just did. Just
Yeah.
want to explain it so they know what they
It's a windfall.
Pardon me?
It's a windfall.
It's a good deal.
Questions called?
Yeah.
Questions called? Okay. All those in favor, sir? Second resolution?
Your Worship, move Councillor Bernard, second by Councillor Rivard. Resolved that the city utility implement the following rates for outside fire protection effective 2019-20. Hydrant charge, water, maintenance, and capital, $911.95. Hydrant charge, water, and maintenance, $807.30, Your Worship.
Question called there, Councillor Ramsey?
Question called, Your Worship.
10-0, all carried. And that's it, Councillor Bernard.
Concludes my report, Your Worship.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Parks and Recreation.
I can do it.
No, me.
No, take care.
Oh, sorry,
You were-
sorry,
yeah.
sorry. We're moving ahead too quick.
Me, Your Worship.
Councillor McKay.
Yep, the Human Resources Communication and Administration Committee met on June 19th. There are no resolutions for your consideration. There will be the second reading of the superannuation plan amendment bylaw. If there are any questions, I'll do my best to try and answer them.
You want to read that? Sir?
Yes, Your Worship. To amend the City of Charlottetown Superannuation Plan and Bylaw 2018-13A to extend the time period from 1 year to 3 years over which an individual can pay for their prior period of leave or past service. Moved by Councillor McCabe, second by Councillor Yankoff. Therefore be resolved that the City of Charlottetown Superannuation Plan Bylaw be read a second time, and that it be said plan be now adopted, Your Worship.
Okay, shall it carry?
Carry.
Pass. Yes, sir. 10-0. Yes, sir. Okay, that's it. Councillor McKay? Thank you, Kathy. Parks and Recreation, Councillor Vote.
Thank you. City of Charlottetown Parks and Recreation Department Volunteer of the Month. As Chair of Parks and Recreation and Leisure Activities Committee, I am very pleased to present the Volunteer of the Month Award for July to Katrina Dirtle. Is Katrina here? Hi, Katrina. How are you? Thanks for coming. Katrina has been a valued member of the Sherwood-Parkdale Minor Baseball Executive for 4 seasons. Her main responsibility is as the Junior Mosquito Coordinator, and which is the largest division in the Sherwood Minor Baseball. Katrina also oversees the teams and helps plan tournaments. Congratulations to Katrina on being named July's Volunteer Month. Let's give her a nice round of applause. Thank you, Katrina. Please keep up the excellent work. Thank you.
Councillor Rivard, are you done there, sir?
Oh, I guess so, according to you.
Councillor Rivard? Yeah, okay, no, just say, hey. Councillor Rivard,
Councillor Twill wants to finish.
No, go right ahead.
that you had a question?
Thank you. I do. Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Twill, I wonder if you can take back to your committee a request maybe to, I guess, I'll back up, sorry. There's been a huge interest in beach volleyball lately, around different beach volleyball,
Okay.
different municipalities, and there's municipalities such as Dartmouth, Moncton, even Summerside, that have these facilities, and then they're used. The popularity of volleyball is growing quite a bit. I'm wondering if there's if you can take it back to the committee, see if there is an appetite from the committee level, maybe for a location for one of these facilities that's fenced in and things of that nature, but make it nice. I know Summerside has one, Dartmouth again has one, and they're nice. And I think it's something that, again, is starting to become a popular thing amongst residents of Charlottetown, and I just wonder if that can be taken back to the committee. Thank you.
Councillor Twill.
Thank you for that question and that recommendation. It's a good suggestion and a good recommendation, and I'd be pleased to put it on the committee's next agenda, and we will be following up and make sure that you will receive an update. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on. Protective Services?
Thank you, Your Worship. The Protective and Emergency Services Committee met on July 8th, and the minutes from that meeting are all included in your weekend package. I'd like to start off by saying that our fire department has been very busy with their weekly training. This month consists of confined space training, live fire scenarios, fireboat training, and rapid intervention crew training. 2 members of the fire department also completed boat operators course, which is terrific for this time of year, and one of our fire inspectors attended training in fire investigation in St. John, New Brunswick. On our policing side, Deputy Sean Coombs completed his senior police administration course, and Constable Trevor Monahan completed his computer forensics examiner course. Both courses were held at the Canadian Police College in Ottawa. Canada Day celebrations were held recently, with both fire and police saying everything went very well, even with the delay in the fireworks being put on another day. We also discussed a request to look at the possibility of a traffic unit, and Chief Smith did a great job of putting together some numbers and put a summary of what a traffic unit would cost, and that numbers would be associated with such a department. If anyone has any questions, I'll answer them as best you can. And I meant to send the email out to give you the numbers about the traffic section and Councillor Tweel's inquiry about marijuana usage. Chief Smith also helped with that, and I gave you each an email probably about 5 to 5. So if you have any other questions on that?
So both back numbers went out, sir? Is that what you-
Yes, I sent them out.
Okay. Councillor
I
Duffy?
thought they were going to go out,
Yeah.
and when I got the package this weekend, they weren't included, so I just sent them out to you.
Thank you, Councillor
Sure.
Duffy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Durand, I noticed in your report for the month of June, tickets, municipal totals, have two-thirds of the way down the sheet on the report. Parking tickets, this time last year, under this particular category, we had issued 16,262 tickets. To this point, the same point in the year, this year, we're down to 9,916 for a drop of 43%. It's quite a drop in one quarter. Do you have any idea of what's going on behind the scene there?
I have no idea whatsoever, Councillor Duffy, but I'll pass this along to our Deputy Chief, Brad McConnell. I'm sure he has well, I don't know if I'm putting him on the spot, but he may have an answer for your question.
Again, just put down the mic too, so that, Councillor Duran?
Yeah, I did, sir. Yep,
Refer to
right
him?
there.
Okay, go right ahead.
Okay.
Your worship, I can't quote numbers, but I think that some of that's attributed to behavior change and some of the initiatives that we're doing. And I think you'll see, although tickets were down, I think you'll see an increase in the revenue in the meters, so people being compliant to the meters that are in place. And so I can get back to you with the exact numbers and the differential between it, but I'm sure that's a big part of it.
Is that all right, Councillor Duffy?
That's fine, thank you.
Councillor Tweel?
Thank you for your report, Councillor Durand. I'm very enthusiastic to hear about the, I guess, the synopsis on the traffic unit here for the city. It was up to me that at least there'd be at least 2 or 3. I think we need to reprioritize some of the assignments in the police department, and I'd like to see traffic division become one of the main focuses here in the city of Charlottetown, particularly speeding around parks and in neighborhoods. Parks and in neighborhoods. Let me try that one more time. In around the parks and neighborhoods. That's what people are saying. That's what they have been saying, and they've been making that crystal clear for the last number of years, and there's no let up. So I think a traffic unit or a couple of traffic units in the city this size, geographically, spread out throughout the city would be a great investment for the city. I do have a couple of questions. The first question is, I read the newspaper today, a story written by Dave Stewart of The Guardian. And it was on the possibility of increasing the parking meters from 4 to 6. Now, let's turn the clock back 6-7 months ago. Mayor did an interview with Dave Stewart and talked about maybe the possibilities of removing the parking meters, and there'd be no meters, and you can park free downtown. So my question is, what are we doing? Are we discussing free parking downtown Charlottetown? I mean, that's what the article said back several months ago, and I read today, we're looking to increase parking from 4 to 6. I'm certainly no expert. I think there's pros and cons to both. There's no question about it. And every municipality struggles and has a difficult time trying to deal with this particular issue. So the question number one on the parking, was there any discussion about removing the parking meters and having free parking downtown? Because that's the impression that was left with the constituents in this city. That's my first question on the parking meters, and then I have a second question I'll ask you that
I'm writing
one.
it down, yeah?
You know, you can answer that one first, Mr.
Okay,
Carter.
but you got 2, right?
I got 2. I
You
got
got
one
2.
more after that.
First was the traffic, you
Oh,
know.
traffic was my enthusiasm.
Okay, so you want me to answer that one?
That was before.
Yes, so Chief Smith, along with his deputies, compiled a report. I don't know if once you get the chance to go through it, you might have some more questions, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They feel that they have increased protection of the city by having all members do traffic rather than just a couple. So once you see the report, I'll be open for a couple of emails or a call, and we'll discuss that. second question was the parking meters, free parking.
Yeah.
We didn't discuss free parking at the last committee level. We just had last week. This was an initiative that was brought up by Deputy McConnell just to discuss it. We weren't going to put it in place. He's going to do some research this month. There were some concerns in the downtown area that you can't get anywhere to park if you're going out for dinner or to go see a show, that all the parking is filled. So this was something that we were going to do, or Deputy McConnell was going to look into the possibility that if we had increased parking enforcement for 2 more hours, would that help free up parking for the businesses? We're certainly not down here looking at ways to raise money to give parking tickets. That wasn't a concern at all. It was just to free up some spots that the businesses could enjoy people coming in and getting a spot. Now, he's gonna look at that for the next month and to see if he can get some numbers on it. He's gonna work with the business community. I'm sure he's got a bunch of emails today. I know I did. So this is just a fact-finding mission for the next month to see where we'd like to go. We're certainly not gonna implement it now. We're just gonna wait for some information first before we proceed with anything else. Thank you.
Councillor McLeod, no, there's other councillors waiting. There's a queue there. Lots of questions for you, Councillor Bernard.
Sure.
Or Councillor
Thank you.
Ron.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your report, Councillor Durong, and certainly do appreciate your discussion at the committee level concerning traffic. I, again, like Councillor Trio, have many concerns. I see speed bumps are going up quite frequently, and in the last 2 weeks, I've got 6 requests. So if you're having a problem, insurer would say, for example, well, guess what? They're coming through my area first to get to you. So I've got a serious problem. I've got just about every street in the ward now is after me. Speed bump, speed bump, speed bump because of the speed of traffic. And it's awful hard to take this report and go back to them while cars are going by 75 miles an hour and saying, well, this is what our study says, you know. There is a serious traffic problem in Ward 2. I have the East Link, the racetrack, breweries, you name it, I've got them, right? And they're coming from the bridge. I got 2 roundabouts in Riverside Drive. They're flying up. They got to go through all the streets in Ward 2 to get to anywhere else. So it's a serious issue, and I really hope that we, you know, I know we got to throw money at it. That's a critical aspect of this whole process. I know the boys are doing the best you can, and girls are doing the best you can, and what you got to work with. But I seriously hope it continues your conversation. I hope that we can hit finance come budget time for next year. And there's other issues just too besides traffic. There's, you know, the bicycle, we have so many bylaws and nothing's being enforced. Like, if you just go to Victoria Park and sit there for 10 minutes and watch what happens. People are walking on the bike, you know, or walking where the bikes are supposed to be, and people are biking on the boardwalk. There's that area there where it says no parking on the turn there. Every time I go by, there's at least 2 cars parking there. Now, I'm pretty sure at some point, someone's going by there, you know, why aren't they being ticketed? And it's again, it comes back to the fact that there's only so many man hours in a day that a person can do. And that's probably not a big issue. But at the end of the day, it is a police issue. And bylaws need to be enforced, or we might as well just put them all up and throw them in the garbage. Helmets and bicycles, you know, the whole enforcement side, I don't know, maybe it could be feathered out that it doesn't have to be a police officer doing some of this stuff. Maybe we could have, you know, something like our ticket officer, same idea. But somehow this has all got to be enforced, and I'm getting tons of phone calls on trucks going up wrong roads. You know, I don't know how hard we're focusing on that. The gravel, of course, the gravel is another issue all by itself. But I would like, if you could put that on for your committee, Councillor Durant, for next meeting on the height bylaw for gravel. It seems to be the gravel's taking up just about every empty spot they can find to put their gravel on. And the means over the years of being able to pile gravel is much higher, and the residents in my area are being choked out. And I know the gravel pit was there a long time, but at the same time, the city has allowed people to build next to it, so we need to respect those folks as well. So just if that could be put on your agenda, because there seems to be some gray area in there and what the bylaw says and what's being enforced. Thank you very much.
Councillor Ron.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and thank you very much for all your comments, Councillor McLeod. I'll just try, I've been writing a couple of notes there just to see, you know, speed bumps. I know that they were going in. We had the discussion with the deputy there the other day. There's been a backlog of people asking for speed bumps. I know now I get them all the time. Well, they got one So Deputy McConnell said we had a lot of requests over the years that we couldn't get to. So with the new speed bumps, they're getting those requests as quick as they can. I think we're, I'd have to ask Public Works, but I think we're pretty near running out for them. Now, that could be something that we could look at next year again at budget time for more speed bumps. The bike lanes in the city, I understand if you're sitting at Victoria Park and you see something wrong, but you have to understand there's only a certain amount of police working in the run of a shift. And, I've worked there. It's very busy, especially in the summertime. Our city opens up the doors and welcomes everybody. Our population certainly goes from 35 to 45 to 55 to 75 in any given weekend. These officers are pushed to the limit of answering calls for service, answering calls, to set up things. They're trying to do their traffic. It's a busy time. Maybe, you have said before that maybe we have to look at, does the city need more people to do the job? There's a certain amount in the city budget for policing, and maybe it's time that we have to sit down as a council and say, listen, this is not getting done the way we'd like to see it, and, we'll have to get more officers. I know in my area, I spoke to the deputy last week about, I never lock my shed, so all of a sudden now I have to lock it, right, because there's people on the move. They've arrested a number of people, put them in jail, so that's kind of calmed things down, but it's a process. They're trying to do their best on break and enters, thefts at the stores, traffic. And I mean, there's people driving bicycles without any helmets. They're trying to do their best. So I guess we'll take it back to our committee. We'll look at it, something that maybe, more people, if that's something that we need, we'll have to sit down and look at that. Thank you.
Good.
Yep.
Okay, Councillor Yanko.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your report, Councillor Duran. I just had received an email from a resident here in my ward whose son has an intellectual disability, and he was sitting out at a bus stop out by Maypoint Road on the corner of Maypoint and Beach Grove for about 20 minutes. And while he was there, he watched every single bit of traffic roll through the stop sign. And I just wondered if we'd be able to take that back to your committee and see what we could do about that. It's an area where there's a lot of people with intellectual disabilities and seniors, and yeah, I mean, I know there's other areas in the city that are very, very, you'd be concerned about those as well, but if we could just take that back, I would appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Sure, that's not a problem. I think Deputy McConnell has taken that note on that. I get calls every day, someone's speeding up Maple or someone's gone through the traffic stop signs there where, so I pass it along. They try to send a guy out or a lady out to do the job. But in certain instances like this, if you have certain concerns that you'd like to be addressed, they're more than willing. Anytime I phone, they're usually there a day or two if they're not tied up on big investigations to help us out as best we can. So feel free to give an email and I'll pass it on to Brad or the chief or Deputy Coombs, and we'll try our best to help out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Trio.
Just want to reiterate what Councillor McLeod said in terms of the traffic division. I think a traffic division in this city would be advantageous. No question about it. So I'm going to continue to push for the implementation of a traffic division here in the city of Charlottetown. Maybe 2 cars totally dedicated to traffic. I know you talked about, each platoon is responsible for traffic. They deal with other issues as well. And sometimes there's other important issues and priorities that they need to attend to that are more serious than traffic. Whereas if we had a traffic division that was totally dedicated to traffic enforcement, then you'd have that consistency which we don't have now. Thank you for your response on the parking. So there was no discussion on free parking by the committee over the last several months, looking at the pros and cons, and of course it'd have to be collaboration with the downtown business. The third point that I wanted to bring up, Councillor Duran, is street-level drugs. Street-level drugs in this city is a major, major problem, okay? People refer to different properties in this city as the drug house. Everybody knows the drugs are being sold, heavy traffic going to and from these particular places to purchase drugs or to sell drugs or use drugs, whatever the case may be. And I think the time has come as we got to make that a priority. I mean, I rose in this chamber a few years ago, talked about street level drugs. People are saying, if you look at this particular neighborhood, this street, everyone in the street does a tremendous job looking after their properties, keeping their properties, but we got that drug house down the street, and we're sick and tired of it. So I think we need to maybe look at what they've done in the city of Halifax legislation, where the police department can go in and seize a property and deal with it head-on, as opposed to waiting months and months and months, and then nothing seems to happen. That's not a criticism, that's just the feedback I'm getting from the community. They're sick and tired of street-level drugs in our city, and we need to make that a top priority.
Thank you. Councillor Duran?
Thank you again, Councillor Twill. You bring up lots of good questions. Again, when you go home tonight, you'll get my email, because I just checked it. I didn't send it the first time, but I sent it again. And it lays out the traffic division, how many instances they could do, rather than the whole department doing traffic. So once you see the numbers, I think you'll agree that this is the best case scenario. At some point in time, with sick time and people on vacation, whether it be September or August, whatever, we only have a certain amount of people. I mean, you say drugs, we have divisions for doing things like that. They're busy trying to do what they can do. They joint forces with the RCMP. They're working hard. I mean, you've pointed out, you want drugs to stop. Again, referring to Councillor MacLeod, is it time to get more people involved, more officers? I'm sure they'd love that. There's only so many calls an officer can make. And some of the guys work with me, and they're getting 40, 50 calls a night, which is, by the time you get a couple of serious, criminal code files and try to do your traffic and try to catch up, you're exhausted. So do we need more people? Maybe it's time to look at that. Same as truck traffic. We have lots of truck traffic going through Ward 2. I mean, you look at things like that in the new plant. Is it going to increase truck traffic down at the port? Is it going to increase traffic through our neighborhoods? These are all the things that we got to think about. The police, again, they're working hard, but we're open to suggestions. If you want to come in, and I put the invitation out to anybody, if you want to come in with a specific point that you want to do, send me an email or come to the committee, and we can sit down and discuss it.
Yeah.
These are all good avenues. These are all good ideas. But when it comes time to a meeting, we're very quick on the agenda. We're meeting for 2 hours. So this would be great. I appreciate anybody's comments or any solutions you may have. So keep it coming.
Thank you for being open, transparent, and accountable there.
No
Councillor
problem.
McCabe?
Yeah, I think you're right, is everything, it comes down to money, and we have to kind of prioritize what's the most important thing as we keep going here and strategically plan how we're gonna keep growing as a city here. I wanted to just stand up to say thank you to Deputy McConnell, I can't think of your title, I'm sorry, I'm tired. Because he's been really great to communicate with things happening in my ward anyway, with the break-ins and stuff in the cars. I was able to get information out to my residents to let them know to be more diligent, lock doors, don't keep valuables in your car, and there's been a lot of positive response for that, so thank you very much for taking the time to keep me up to speed with what's happening in my ward.
Councillor MacLeod?
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and Councillor Duran, thank you very much for your response. I'm glad, first just want to say I really appreciate the fact that you are talking about traffic. It's been a long time coming, and it needs to be fixed. And on the trucking, I'm just referring to trucks that are not going up proper streets. Like, we do have truck routes, and they need to be adhered to, and that's the issue I had with that, so just to be clear. And I'm not sure, Councillor Duran, if this is your question to answer, or maybe it might be Public Works, but speed bumps, we had bought so many, are we evenly sharing those speed bumps amongst the wards? I guess that's the question I had. I'm not sure if that's for you to answer or not.
No, I'd like to answer.
Oh,
that.
would you? Okay, go
We
ahead.
did discuss that.
Okay.
We just discussed that at our committee meeting, and I found out that, I was under the impression when I applied for some speed bumps before that I gave it to Deputy Mayor Cody, and he took it to his committee. So I find out that it doesn't necessarily come to the committee for approval. It goes directly to Deputy McConnell or one of his staff. They do a traffic investigation at this. And we asked for, about being even. You know, do some wards have more? There could be more speeders in certain wards, but I've always asked to have it spread out evenly, and I think that's a big thing, because a lot of streets are phoning me saying, well, how come I can't get one? You know, and it looks bad. So it did come up at the committee level, and we'll discuss it again next month about Sharon. Deputy McConnell's going to give us a kind of an email to keep us in touch where they're at. So like myself, you don't have to drive around the city every street to see who's got what. So now you can be able to say, okay, listen, there's 4 in yours, there's 5 in mine. You know, we'll have an idea where they are, how many are out there. There's got to be a number out there. We bought, I think, 40 last time. So, you know, along with what we had before. So, you know, we'll have to keep a number on these and to make sure they're shared evenly. I agree 100%. Thank you.
Councillor Bernard.
Thank you, Richard. Just to tap into that, whenever council did agree to buy the 40, it was the 4 per ward. That was agreeable right at the time we bought them. But I just want to make a comment on the parking 4 to 6. So, you know, different times when different committees meet, it's easy to say, well, come on into the committee or whatever, but we don't know what's on the agenda. So the article in the paper today, and I see that it was just touched on in the minutes. To me, you know, from 4 to 6, really what you're going to hammer here is the tourists. The downtown has been such a vibrant downtown. You know, the tourists come, whether they come from the beach or whatever, they go downtown, they pull in, they have a nice meal, relax, come out, and get a ticket in the car. That's great. That's great. Yeah. So for me, I don't see the use of extending from 4 to 6 to start hammering our tourists. I'm not sure the ones that go down and have a meal, then go to shop in the boutiques or whatever after. I'm not sure this is going to be a real good benefit. So I'd be against it anyway. So.
Thank you. I'd like to respond. What we're doing here when we're looking at increased an hour or two to 6 o'clock was to give that tourist an opportunity for a space to be open. If people are working in the downtown, you know, they go home for lunch and they park there or something, or staff coming into work, they park in front of the businesses. This was an idea that, you know, if we had increased enforcement, that people would either pay for the meters or park not in front of the businesses. We've also looked at different cities where Toronto is 24 hours. I know when I was in Halifax, you know, at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, I was still putting money in the meters because you don't want to be ticketed. So this is not focusing on one person. It's to give that tourist the opportunity to park close to a boutique or to a restaurant. You know, we're not looking to hammer anybody. We're just looking to open up some parking for anybody in Charlottetown. And this was a way that we're going to get some information. We're going to look at it. I know the article came out in the paper and everybody's panicking, what are you doing? But this is just something that we're going to look at. Maybe we'll come back next month with some numbers after talking with DCI and a couple other people that have an interest in downtown, and come up with a solution that, you know what, maybe we don't need it from 4 to 6. So this is just a starting point. It's a lot like, you know, an point of interest with the fire hall. This is just a start. We're going to look at it, see what we need, then we'll come back to council for a discussion.
Councillor Bernard,
Yeah.
second time, sir.
Yeah, I just don't see, you know, if people are parking in front of parking spots in front of certain areas in town, they're not going to park there. They're going to be there for the day. And the shops close at 6 and 7 o'clock. So to start adding from 4 to 6 because somebody's parked in front of their business, I don't buy that. They're usually on their way home by that time. So anyway, I know you're just looking at it.
Yeah.
I think it's a bad idea. It's just my 2 cents.
Thank you. That's why we get professionals that are working in the field. They come with a request from the business community to see what we can do. This was just one thing to look at. You know, I know you don't agree with it. I don't agree with a lot of things, but, you know, this was just a point of interest.
Yep. Okay.
We're going to look at it, and if it's good, we'll see what we can do. If it's not, then we'll just die.
Thank you, Conor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Conor. We got 2 resolutions there, Mr. Kelly?
3, Your Worship. 3.
3. You want to read the first one, sir?
Yes, Your Worship.
Thank
Moved
you,
by
Conor.
Councillor Drawn, second by Councillor Ramsey. Resolved that the request to enter into a development encroachment agreement for the outdoor patio to be located in the 2 perpendicular parking spaces in front of Timothy's World Coffee Shop, 154 George Street, PID 342717, be approved to the end of the 2021 season, subject to an annual permit application, and that the mayor and CEO are hereby authorized to execute standard contract agreements to implement this resolution.
Question called?
Question called.
Two spaces. Okay. Okay, sir, next one.
Moved by Councillor Duran, second by Councillor Ramsey, that the Public Works Manager be authorized to cut grass, remove any garbage and other materials or debris, clean up the property or dispose of the same at the owner's expense on property located at 17 Dawson Court Street, PID 623454, in accordance with the terms of the Dangerous Hazardous and Unsightly bylaw of the City of Charlottetown.
Question called. Mr. Cody? Okay.
Your worship, by Councillor Duran, second by Councillor Ramsey, that the Public Works Manager be authorized to cut grass, remove any garbage or other materials or debris, clean up the property, dispose of the same at the owner's expense on property located at 142 Prince Street, PID 343053, in accordance with the terms, in terms of the Dangerous Hazardous and Unsightly bylaw of the City of Charlottetown, Your worship.
Question called. Please vote. Thank you. All in favor? Okay, Councillor Brown, thank you very much. Great report. Great discussion. Water and sewer. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our committee met. The report is in your package, and there's 2 resolutions for council's consideration tonight. And if there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Councillor Ramsey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor Cody, for your report. I was reading it. I've been getting a lot of phone calls and emails lately about the corner of Nassau and Northwood Road where the traffic lights are, where we had a water break this past winter, and it's still so rough right now, and that's one of our main streets going in and out of our city, just where the traffic lights are in Northwood, I don't know if you, and Nassau and Northwood Road there. And every day there seem to be more and more people calling me and all that, and I think that, for instance, on yours too, Councillor Duffy, on your board. But at the same time, I'm just wondering if that's going to be shifted over to Public Works to fix that area. I already talked to Stormwater a few times about it. I kept sending them the emails, but I don't know if we're waiting for new tenders or what we're going to do, but it's a bad, bad shape there. I was just wondering if you can bring that back to your committee.
No. Yep. No, I know it. I know exactly where you're talking about. That's a good point. I can follow up on that. We can get back to you. Yep.
Thank you.
Councillor Yankoff.
Thank you. Thank you for your report, Councillor Cody. I've had some requests from some residents for some of the outdoor, I don't know if you saw the email or not, so outdoor taps around the city in areas where people can stop and fill up their water bottles and trying to discourage people from, you know, using the single-use plastic and things like that. Now, I don't know if it's a question for you or if it's a question for Councillor McLeod, so I just thought I would bring it up to you first. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, it would fall under Councillor McLeod's portfolio. I know when Councillor Duffy had the committee, we purchased a refillable water station. I think it was at Victoria Park on Canada Day, actually. I think I've seen it. So there is one. I don't know if there's any more, but like I say, Councillor McLeod may be able to add a little bit more.
And I did forward the email she's talking about from Jeremy McFadden on to Ramona and Richard. Do you have anything to add to it?
Just base, thank you
Sir.
for your question, Councillor Yankoff. Yeah, so there's one down in King Square, I believe it is, or Connaught Square, I guess. Is it? Which one is it? Connaught Square. Down by the Richmond Street on the corner there. We do have also. We've done some in the schools as well, and I think that going forward, there's been some loose talk at the committee level about doing more. I don't have an exact financial number, but I think for this year, our budget doesn't have any more to come. But I can ask Ramona to give when we have our report, to give her an update that she has as well. Okay, thank you.
I know there's one down in John Street. Yeah.
That's from there last year. Maybe that's the one.
Yeah, that has to be, it's still enclosed.
Yeah.
Is that it, McLeod? Okay. The resolutions? Want to read them, sir?
Yes, Your Worship. Moved by Deputy Mayor Cody, second by Councillor Bernard, that the Campbell Concrete Limited be awarded the tender for utility inventory in the amount of $91,091.78, HST included, that this be the expense of the 2019-2020 utility budget, and further that the mayor and CEO are hereby authorized to execute the standard contract agreements to implement this resolution.
Question called. Councillor Rivera is not in yet, and Councillor McCabe. Okay, and zero, carried. Next one, sir.
Your worship, moved by Deputy Mayor Cody, second by Councilor Bernard, whereas the City of Charlottetown awarded the engineering services for the Charlottetown Pollution Control Plant upgrades project to CBCL Limited on March 29th, 2017. And since that time, there has been changes to the scope of the work. Be it resolved that the value of the award be increased to $172,189.50, HST included. That this be expensed of the 2019-2020 utility capital budget with no increase to the budget for this project. And further, that the mayor and CEO are hereby authorized to execute standard contract agreements to implement this resolution, Your Worship.
Okay, Councillor Twill. Question?
Deputy Mayor Cody, I am a member of the committee, but it's been a while now since we met. And a lot of concerns about whether or not the municipality of Stratford is going to connect with City of Charlottetown, the treatment plant in Riverside Drive. Maybe Richard McEwen can give us an update. Do we know exactly, do we have a status report as to whether or not the town of Stratford is going to construct their own facility? Because I think when it come back, the connection to the City of Charlottetown pipe underneath the bridge is that the cost was twice as much as was originally costed. So I'm just wondering, do we have a progress report, Mr. Cody? Do we have a progress report, or maybe Mr. McEwen can give us that information? Do we have a progress report as to, is Stratford going to build their own facility? Are they going to hook up to the City of Charlottetown? And what are the timelines and timeframes?
Yeah.
There's a resolution on the floor, Your Worship.
Yep, Charlottetown Pollution Control Plant.
Are we going
But-
to deal with that before?
Yeah, I know,
That's
but
the question in the report.
But the question is about upgrading the plant to accommodate for the expansion. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's,
It's
what I
related.
wanna know.
It is related. Yeah.
Okay.
well,
Do you want to answer?
I will ask Richard, because like I say, nothing has come back to the committee to that level. I know there's some discussions ongoing, but the upgrades to the plant also include the,
That's right.
shutting down the East Royalty Lagoon.
Oh, that's another part of it.
That,
yeah.
that's another part of this equation, but like I say, there's some discussions at a higher level, so maybe Richard can.
Mr. Pugh, can you put your mic down there from Councillor Duran? Put him on mic. I know. Yeah. You're doing a good job.
Thank you, Councillor Duran. There are ongoing discussions. At this time, it remains Stratford's intention to send their wastewater to the WIC Charlottetown Pollution Control Plant. At this time, construction continues to take place at the Charlottetown Pollution Control Plant with the intention of treating Stratford's wastewater. There are discussions, but it remains their intent that the Charlottetown Pollution Control Plant will be treating their waste.
Second question.
Thank you, Mr. McEwen. So as a follow-up, since the construction is taking place, expansion, renovations taking place to the treatment plant on Riverside Drive, has Stratford made a financial contribution to the cost of the construction?
Do you have that information, or do you have that, Mr. Kelly?
Your Worship, this is part of the overall, if you recall, council approved a 15% surcharge on the fees that we charge. Built in those fees are all the capital costs and other cost factors, Your Worship.
Is that the same response there, Mr. McEwen?
So, Your Worship, if you'd like me to speak. So it's Charlottetown's responsibility to look after the cost for the upgrades at the wastewater treatment plant. And it's Stratford's responsibility to look after the capital costs to get their wastewater to our treatment plant.
Correct.
So to answer your question, Stratford hasn't made a contribution to those construction costs. That is Charlottetown to pay for those.
But in our cost, then their surcharge and the overall cost, they'll pay part of those costs back over the period of time.
That's right. The rate that we would charge them recuperate, or it includes capital cost recovery.
Councillor Bernard, maybe you can add a little light to it.
Thank you,
You're up here.
I guess first of all, a question for Jason or Richard. But this is an expansion to the plant. We always said that if we were going to bring Stratford sewage over, that we were definitely going to close the lagoon in East Raleigh. So there's an expansion that needs to happen. At the end of the day, when we do this expansion, if Stratford's waste was not to come to our plant, it's just not just an expansion that will continue for the city of Charlotte. So we would have to upgrade as nearly as soon as what's on schedule now. So for example, when we did the upgrade last time, it was $25 million upgrade, and it was projected with the city's population for 50 years. Now, when Stratford comes in, obviously that projection goes down. And I think the plant's been close to 15 years since we upgraded it now. So even if we go ahead with this, does this not expand the waste that the city would have to digest through growth of the city of Charlottetown? Because East Raleigh is about to explode. There's all kinds of growth going on in the city of Charlottetown.
And more to come.
And more to come, yeah. So regardless, we don't, this is 25 cent dollars, correct? So if we don't do it now, we're gonna have to do it in the future at some point. So,
Do we have a timeline? Can you respond?
Sure.
Is that all right, Councillor?
Absolutely. Any upgrades we do at the wastewater treatment plant are for the benefit of the city.
Yeah.
And we will have that capacity that we can use
in the future.
help our own residents.
Right, thank you.
Okay, can we go to the vote?
Yeah.
Question was called, and just log in, please. Is it the number 2? No. Okay, 10-0, carried. Anything else there, Councillor? Nothing? Okay. Say it's Councillor Vote?
No, Duffy.
Councillor Duffy, sorry, sir.
Yep.
Sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, everyone. The Public Works Committee met on June the 26th. The minutes are in your package. I'll just go at high level at various topics we covered. Mobile signs. The city owns mobile signs, as we all know, that are digital lit-up signs used mainly for traffic control and advising the general public of special situations within the city. The mobile signs we get requests from all sorts of organizations and groups, and anything from the IODE to the Boy Scouts to the Lions Club, you name it, those private charitable or support group having a yard sale or a bingo or whatever. So over the years, it's been developed that some we lend to, some we don't lend to, some we, depends if they're available. The condition they come back in sometimes is not all that desirable. It ties up some of our staff that have to go out and set them electronically to be used. So this whole issue of mobile signs has been just that, an issue. So Public Works Department, as it comes under their venue, we have decided to write a policy, hopefully, to address all these situations. So it's not all over the place. It's orderly presented. And the members of these organizations and agencies and whatever will have a copy of the policy, and they'll know if they're in, out, and under what conditions they will be. So it will be the same rules basically for all concerned. So the Public Works will draft a policy, and of course, as a policy, it will come into this room for consideration by council. Next item that we discussed and talked at quite length about was microsurfacing. Microsurfacing is basically Scotch guarding to a thick degree, present asphalt that is starting to kind of break up or fray at the edges. In an effort to save it, Scotch guarding is applied to the street surface. It has to be under fairly warm conditions, 20 degrees Celsius or above, and it just acts to kind of bring everything together. And this process can extend the life of a street by 7 or 8 years. The cost of it is less than you would cost for resurfacing the street. It's $14 a square meter to resurface the street, where it's only $9 to microsurface it. And it gets you 8 more years, so it's very economical to apply, and it'll save us big bucks. The committee was so impressed with the results of the experiment we had with this product 2 years ago that our committee will be coming back to council looking for $500,000 to do additional streets.
From the GTF?
Yeah, from the gas tax. Right now, we have planned basically 2 streets, quite lengthy. One will be Mount Everett Road from Belvedere Avenue to the Crosstown Arterial. The second street will be North River Road from, I believe, from McGill Avenue, I believe, down to
Corner of Nassau, North
Brighton Road. Pardon?
Corner of Nassau.
Yeah, with the bypass of the Nassau intersection, Nassau Street intersection. An addition, our Public Works operational update is in the package for your information. I have 3 resolutions concerning tenders. One more improvement we have made, I believe, is prior to our our committee meeting on the 26th, there was a written or unwritten policy within the city of Charlottetown stating that only public schools would be zoned or signed or dedicated as school zones. Private schools, and we have 1 or 2 around the city, were not included in that service provided by the city. So the Montessori school, for example, although there's small children there, the city was not school zoning those. From here on in, we will be school zoning those. You know, child safety is a child safety regardless of if they're paying for school or it's a private school. One exception, or the exception to that rule, will be like the Montessori school in the Confederation Center Mall over here. It will not require any additional markings around the mall. I mean, I think we have the traffic controlled, you know, to a full extent there for other reasons. Ditch infilling, of course, we just discussed for a short time, and we'll be getting back to that. We're not rushing into that. We want all council involved in that. We want to formulate a introductory educational package so that people know the facts around ditch infilling. It's not just one aspect, it's a whole lot of elements on the go. As I stated, I have 3 resolutions, Your Worship, and I will be pleased to answer any questions any councillor may have. Thank you.
Just have one comment, Councillor Duffy.
Yes.
Last Friday, we had that extreme heat.
Yes.
So my sister, Nora, sent me a Facebook message. Just wanted to let you know of the city worker, Leonard A. Flack, how he noticed an older woman walking up Old King Square in this heat. She fell, and how he was so quick to help her to get her up and try to get her water. So Leonard A. Flack, if you can pass that on to him.
Yes.
Job well done. Just
Certainly will, Your Worship. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Rivera.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Duffy, thank you for your report. Just touching on the ditch infilling, I read through the package, and I know you're going to talk about it some more, but I don't know how we're going to tell people who didn't have their ditches infilled that because we've taken so long that they're not going to get their dishes infilled, and it's at their own cost when we've done, what is it, 70–80% of the dishes to date. I couldn't imagine telling the 20 that don't that we're not doing them. I would rather see, as I think Councillor Cody brought up before, go you know, go to the capital budget, take the monies out that's needed, and just finish it. But yeah, I would think that I have at least 5 streets in my area that would there'd be an outcry. So I strongly suggest we finish the ditch infill program.
But Your Worship, the problem is there is no finish. That's the whole problem. We spent $33 million so far since 1995. We're going to spend another $2 million this summer. That's $35 million. In order to do ones that are even on the list, is another $15 million. That's $50 million. And as we talked here not 10 minutes ago, the city of Charlottetown is going to be expanding, especially in the East Royalty area. So that's why I say there is no end to it. And we, to do what we have on the books right now is $50 million. That's a lot of money. Especially when some cities, Your Worship, who have ditch infilling completed are starting to take it out. Because environmentalists have come forward, scientists have said, this is breaking the cycle of the natural cycle of water to the ground and through the ground and back to the water and up, and, you know, so, you know, when is enough, you know?
So,
and that's part of the education program.
So Councillor Rivera, just before you answer, with the new subdivision policy that we have, are the developers required to infill?
They are, yep.
So,
Yeah,
go ahead.
thank you, Your Worship. Yes, yes,
Just wanted to find that out.
they are required to ditch infill, or not have a ditch to infill to begin with. Again, going back to the ones that didn't, I get there's a big cost, and I understand that. And, you know, there's pros and cons to having a ditch and not having a ditch, I guess, for whatever purposes, I guess, from a aesthetically pleasing and a safety issue. I just can't imagine not filling the rest at whatever the expense is. I don't know, maybe find a better way, a cheaper way. I don't care, but I just can't imagine not filling the ditches. And then explain to them that because we took so long to get to where we are today, you're just not on the list, when they've been requesting year after year after year after year to get it done. And we keep telling them, not this year, not this year, next year, next year, next year, and then all of a sudden cut it off. I don't think it's gonna go over too well, that's
Worship,
all.
I'm sure there's a couple of provisos to the ditch infilling. If it's for health and safety purposes, in other words, the residents are at risk, or visitors are at risk for that matter, of being hurt or worse because of the ditch infilling. And also, if the ditch infilling is being done to support, literally support, city infrastructure, those are allowed. But it's more the scientists coming forward saying, like, it's not only money, it's not, money is a big factor, there's no doubt about it. But if we were to find out something else was detrimental to the environment, we've addressed that with the pesticide bylaw, to some degree, not fully. But if we're to believe the scientists, should we be doing it even if it was free? Because it is detrimental to the environment, which in turn is detrimental to human beings.
I know, Councillor Rivard, we can discuss,
Yeah.
this is definitely going to go back to a special meeting. This is far from over.
This is far from over.
Councillor Duran.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Councillor Duffy. I like to second Councillor Vard, and I know it's coming for a bigger discussion. I know where you live, your ditches are probably filled already, but when Ward 6 joined amalgamation in 95, a lot of our ditches have been left. We haven't got a chance to fill them. So the residents in that area are constantly calling, when are we going to get them filled? When are we going to get them filled? And I understand that, and I understand an environment concern, whatever you come up with there. But I mean, here we are, talking about environment, talking about banning pesticides, allowing an asphalt plant. Like, where does it all go? I mean, we want to discuss things. I guess we can discuss them in a timely manner. And I just want to say, appreciate the opportunity to sit down and discuss the ditch infilling, which Councillor McLeod's committee is looking at too. So I just wanted to say that Ward 6 is interested in getting our ditch filled as well. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor McKay.
Do you want?
I also second with the third, with Councillor Duran and Councillor Rivard, and I also think that this discussion should happen sooner than later, because we're already into July, and I think that these ditches, like safety, they shouldn't have to wait at all. If there's a safety concern, that should be bumped up the list anyway, because they should make sure that those ditches are filled, but I do believe that we do need to look at the outskirts and make sure that they get what they've been waiting for.
Councillor McLeod.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'll just jump ahead. It was discussed at the environmental level.
Report? Do you want to save it for your report?
Or I can just answer it here and be done with
ahead.
it. And then,
Go right ahead.
because since we're already in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So ditch infilling, I guess, I'll start by going back to 1995. I guess is when this all began. And at that time, the report's 10 years old, and it stated then that this was not necessarily a very environmentally friendly idea to do. Ditch infilling reduces the recharge to the groundwater. It impacts the flow of the streams, and we have 4 major streams going through the city of Charlottetown that are slowly all of a sudden being choked out and being dried out because the water isn't actually running where it's supposed to go. So, and which affects our environment, habitat, the whole 9 yards. So, because they provide ecological, benefit to the society. So, the other part was ditches decrease the amount of stormwater to manage and results in less sediment of streams due to turbulent flow at the end of the discharge pipe. So there's all kinds of issues with where the water is going through these pipes. And one issue, for example, would be the yacht club down there. For example, there's so much silt being thrown into there that they're having problems. And if it's affecting a major waterway like the Hillsborough River, what's it doing to our streams? where it's being dumped into. So there's 9 or 10 different things that environmentally says that this ditch infilling does not suit us, and it's just like it's no different than a plastic bag. We now know that society that we found out that plastic bag takes 1,000 years to break down. Well, ditch infilling, and also there's other issues with ditch filling is the fact that it back up in some people's properties as well, because it's not naturally, it's not there to handle the flow of water that we thought it did. So there's problems in public works, and Scott could probably touch on that as well. But so there are understandably good reasons why we should stop it. But I do think under the Public Works Department there is issues such as safety concerns would be definitely considered in those cases. But I just thought I'd add that part from my report so that we can.
And you report it again.
Thank you,
sir. Yeah, Bernard.
Thank you, Ursula. One, I'm kind of wondering why we're having a discussion, because the budget's been passed. There's $1.82 million for ditch infilling. That's more of a budget issue than anything. I mean, I think there's ditches that are going to be filled in this year. I think the designs are done. I think the tenders are out. And if you're talking about next year, I think it's a budget discussion. But I can give a quick example of East Rawley. I know before we started work on Andrews Pond, the ditches were open, and every spring there was a ton of garbage going in Andrews Pond, whether it was plastic bags, whether it was Tim Horton cups, whether it was Bud. Whereas now the ditches that are filled in, and you have the grates on them, so there's no garbage getting into Andrews Pond or the Hillsborough River. And it was plastered every spring. You could see where it outlets, and it was just a ton of garbage. The recharge, I hear that argument, but you know what, I don't understand it, I don't buy it, because the open ditch, especially when you get the flash floods you get now, the water's been running through so quickly that a lot of times the culverts haven't handled it and it's gone over the driveways, and any child that's out there playing is goodbye. So now the ditches are filled in, you got one catch basin. So I would think that the water has much more time to get through to recharge as opposed to the open ditches roaring right down into the stream. But for me, seeing the amount of garbage and seeing the amount of garbage that been eliminated, that alone is an environmental plus for having these ditches filled in. But anyway, it's a budget issue, and to me, the budget's already been passed.
Councillor Bernard, being former chair of Public Works, now they have perforated pipes.
Yep, they do.
Perforated for recharge.
And we've been installing them.
Councillor Rivard,
Thank you. I won't be long, Your Worship.
No.
And I do appreciate what Councillor MacLeod and Councillor Duffy are saying, and I don't disagree in that sense. I guess it goes back to asking someone to if they're okay with not having their ditch infilled after we've gone this long, is like asking someone who had their ditch infilled to dig it back up. I'm guessing it wouldn't be very favorable. That's my point. I don't disagree with the environmental impacts, all that kind of stuff. Just that if we knew this 10 years ago, why did we start down this road? It's one I don't think we can turn back.
okay, we got 2 resolutions.
3 years.
3. Ahead of you. Huh? You taking them out of your pocket there? What? Go ahead, sir.
Moved by Councillor Duffy, second by Councillor Bernard, that as per the conditions of the request for quotations on one new 72 commercial grade front mount lower mower, the submission from Green Diamond Equipment Limited in the amount of $29,403.87, all taxes included, be accepted, and that this expenditure has been previously approved in the 2019 capital budget, and further that the mayor and CEO are hereby authorized to execute the standard contract agreements to implement this resolution.
Question called. Please vote. Carried. 10-0.
Your Worship, moved by Councillor Duffy, second by Councillor Bernard, that as per the conditions of the request for quotations on the 2019 fleet vehicles in respect to 3 half-ton crew cab trucks, 2 3/4-ton crew cab trucks, and 1 1-ton crew cab truck chassis, the submission of Summerside Chrysler Dodge in the amount of $291,280.05, all taxes included, be accepted, and that this expenditure has been previously approved in the 2019 capital budget, and further, that the mayor and CEO are hereby authorized to execute any standard contract agreements to implement this resolution, Your Worship.
Question called.
Question called.
Your Worship, moved by Councillor Duffy, second by Councillor Bernard, that as per the conditions of the request for quotations on the 2019 fleet vehicles in the respected 2 half-ton 2 crew cab trucks for the police department and 1 full-size police package car, the submission of Reliable Motors Limited in the amount of $127,674.15, all vehicle trade-in and taxes included, be accepted, and that this expenditure has been previously approved in the 2019 capital budget, and further that the mayor and CEO are hereby authorized to execute any standard contract agreements to implement this resolution.
Questions, comments?
Sir? Councillor Vote. 10-0, carried. Development, tourism, event management. Mr. Ramsey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members of Council. The Economic Development Tourism Events Management Committee met June 19th and June 25th. The minutes are in your package. The Charlottetown Arts Advisory Board met June 11th also. The draft minutes are in your package also. At this time, I'd like to send congratulations out to our tourism officer, Laurel Lee, as she was the recent winner of the MPI Atlantic Canada Chapter 2019 Rising Star Award. Let's give Laurel a hand, I think. I think we're going to have to get Laurel probably a bigger office because of all the awards she's winning for Rising Star and all that. She should be on the TV shows anyway.
Kelly's office, he's got a big office up there.
Yeah, Mr. Kelly, could you share your office with Laurel Lee?
No problem.
So Laura,
Mom's got a big office too.
yeah, they all got big offices, but you, Your Worship. But Laurel, our hearts are up for you, and congratulations, you did a great job, and you're working very hard at it. As you all know, despite the challenging weather, the Canada Day celebration fireworks did not go the night they were supposed to go, but they went July 2nd, and there has been nothing but positive feedback from the show. And in the meantime, our three departments are working very busy with the summer festivals and events that are going on. As you know, our city is vibrant right now. It's just jumping with tourism and everything. So we'd like to, if I have any questions, you can fire away. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ramsey. Always a good report from you. Always.
You're a good guy. See, Mike can tell you.
Councillor Twill, you have a question for the Chair of Economic Development?
Well, we read in the newspaper today the success of the Cavendish Music Festival. Year after year, we hear about the successes. And year after year, we have the On Event Center. It used to be the Event Center, but now the On Event
Where's
Center.
that at?
Down at Grafton Street East. Millions of dollars spent on that facility. And if you drive by today, you know what's there? Mountains and mountains of gravel. Deplorable. Absolutely deplorable. That a facility of that magnitude is being used to storage gravel. When we have Cavendish doing well, we're talking about putting concerts out in Oyster Bed, and yet we can't host any major events here in the city of Charlottetown. Absolutely deplorable. So I think that it's time we sat down with the province, economic tourism minister, and have those discussions, look at what it would take to parallel the success in Cavendish and what they're proposing to do in Oyster Bed, because the time has come. We have citizens in this city that would like to go to a concert here in the city. It's not just for the tourist, it's for our locals as well. And they've been asking, why are we not seeing any concerts here down at that facility? That's what it was constructed for. There was all kinds of ribbons being cut at the time, city officials, provincial officials, shaking hands, cutting ribbons, nothing done. So I believe the time is now. Set up a working committee to work with the province, look at the possibilities. How much money, for example, as a provincial and federal government poured into that facility out in Cavendish from an operational and from a capital cost? Millions of dollars. Why can't we receive the same consideration, the same resources, the same funding to correct the deficiencies, or if there are deficiencies, and to work with concert goers, First Nations, and all those other different international organizations, and start bringing events here to the city? So, Councillor Ramsey, I look forward to working with you, sir, now as a new member of the committee. But, I mean, we've got Mr. Long here, who does a great job. We've got people working on the inside. I don't know what the hesitation is or what the barriers are, but we've got to start knocking them down.
Thank you, Councillor Twill. As you know, at your first meeting with us last week, I guess it was, that funding is a major part of it, and I understand what you're saying about Cavendish. That's been going on for 11 years. The city sort of benefits from that one because we don't have to police it and everything along that line, but our hotels are full, our restaurants are full, so that's a win-win for us. That's a private sector out there, and maybe we do have plans. I believe, Mr. Long, as you know, we're going to try and talk to the province about things, and then the events ground is under Lana, I believe, but Yankoff, and we have Mr. Kelly also looking into that too. So as of now, we don't know where it's going to go, but we'll certainly take it back to our committee with you on it.
Just to follow up, thank you, Councillor Ramsey. You know, it's great, hotels are full, the restaurants are full. I'm talking about the citizens in this community that don't have the wherewithal to leave the province to go to a concert of their choice. For example, this weekend, Def Leppard's going to be playing Halifax, going to be playing in Moncton. There'll be Islanders go, no question about it. So why can't Def Leppard come here to this city? So that's what the locals are saying, our residents are saying. It's not just about tourism, it's also about our citizens looking to attend those concerts. So I look forward to finally establishing a plan of action.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yep.
Question?
Just want to say you might want to be careful what you ask for. Because you want to bring Def Leppard or all these concerts, you're going to have a lot of people complaining about the noise right downtown Charlottetown. So just be careful what you ask for.
That's why it was built. It was built for that.
Be careful what you ask for. is all.
No, but I mean, well then, you know what, it shouldn't have been built then.
Well, it's built anyway, so we got it. Okay, no resolutions?
No resolution.
That's it, sir?
Thank you. Yes, it
Thank
is.
you kindly. And I think it's next is Mr. McLeod.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Environment and Sustainability Committee met on June 26th, and the Food Council met on June 19th. The draft minutes are included in your package. I have no resolutions for consideration, but I do have a few points of interest for the month of June.
Okay.
And some highlights, if you don't mind, Your Worship. The city had a successful bike week in June with a number of events and promotions aimed in increased cycle safety and benefits of cycling. This included the launch of the new bike map for Charlottetown and partnerships with businesses that offer discounts when you show your bike helmet. Some events were canceled due to the rain, as Councillor Ramsey had alluded to earlier there, but it didn't stop the mayor from participating in the great contest with the local radio station on the bike to work event. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
It was some tough
Did beat my
bikers.
time.
The sustainability staff will be working with local businesses to provide incentives to increase the number of bike racks throughout the city. As more people opt to use bikes, we want to ensure adequate and secure parking for the bikes. The transit pilot project with Colonel Gray finished up last month, and 53 students participated, grades 10 to 12, and each student was given a transit pass for the month of April and June and asked to track the ridership during the pilot. The Capital Area Transit Coordinating Committee will be reviewing results later this month, and we'll be making a recommendation for the next steps moving forward. It's a great project, worthwhile doing. Further to the public works discussion on district film that we had, and also we just discussed here, we did meet at our committee level as we discussed the environmental impacts of what ditch infilling is doing, and we ended up by saying that the mayor did provide, saying that we're going to move that to go to a council meeting of the whole at some point to discuss it further with concerns such as Councillor Rivard's. The Environment Sustainability Committee also approved joint Atlantic Canada PACE organization in an application to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities to look at the low interest financing for energy efficient and renewable energy for residential and commercial projects in Charlottetown. That's a big step. That's been well sought after for a long time, and it's great to see it coming forth. It helps folks out with the costs. The Charlottetown Food Council met on June 19th and are working on a number of projects, including a garden party, Your Worship, at the Legacy Garden, and that will be part of the city's Natal Day celebrations. And lastly, the transit ridership continues to grow in the city. June 2019 ridership was up 18% over June of 2018. with 49,143 rides in Charlottetown. So that concludes my report. Any questions, I'll try to answer.
And Councillor MacLeod, I think she passed it on to you. The first meeting of the Mayor's Task Force will be next Monday, the 15th, and they're very energetic to get together. Plus, Ramona and her staff put together, you have to see it, the package. It's a very well and a thorough package to start the meeting off. So I want to thank,
Yeah, just if you mind, yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ramona has been working behind the scenes on that now for quite a while. There's been a lot of information needs to be put together to get these folks on the go, and of course, you know, it's all new to everybody, so it's a well worthwhile project, and I want to thank Ramona for that. She's put a lot of work into it already so far, just to get it off the ground. Thank you.
any questions? Thank you, Councillor MacLeod.
Thank you very much.
Great report.
I just have one.
Yes. Right ahead.
And Gary, you can get back to me later if you don't have an answer tonight. I'm just wondering, maybe a different way that your committee does the minutes, but I know a lot of discussions, and one of them I'm looking at is the ditch infilling, the discussion we had on it. And I thought the recommendation we had left was, it's a budget issue, and leave it till budget time. And then I think the mayor had said, when that discussion comes to committee of the whole.
Come back into it, yes.
Whatever that I see in here is all regions we shouldn't be filling in ditches. I don't see anything of the discussions that we would have had on it. So I'm just wondering,
As far as, oh, sorry.
anyway, sometimes there should be a flavor of discussions that are going on in the committee meeting.
Yeah. But I think you decided to defer it to the committee.
Yeah, we only, we just talked about the environmental impacts, and of course, from there, we just kind of said, sorry, I should be saying.
Go ahead,
That we would move it to a council of the whole to discuss in the future, that there was, you know, a lot of issues with just saying no, and of course, we budgeted for it anyway. So this is looking down the road. What we were discussing, we weren't looking at impact.
All I'm saying is when you read the minutes here,
Yeah.
all kinds of reasons why we shouldn't.
Right.
We talked about reasons
We
why
did,
we
there was,
shouldn't.
yeah, you're true. And I
Oh, that's
can,
in there.
I'll
So
ask.
just slant it one way, is all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
okay, cool. I'll definitely bring that back to the
We'll
committee.
amend it the next
Yeah, thank you.
Good
Okay.
point there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nothing else? Okay,
Nope, we're
so the last report is from you, Councillor MacLeod. And it's on,
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Council Advisory Committee met on June 10th and the 17th, and the minutes are included in your package. There is no resolutions, but I do have one notice of motion to amend the procedural bylaw. So you can read that at your convenience, Your Worship. And I'll try to answer any questions.
notice of motion, do you want to read it?
Okay, I'll read my notice. Notice of motion to amend the procedural bylaw, amend section 33, subsection 33.1, from a meeting of the council shall automatically end at 10 o'clock p.m. unless otherwise determined by a vote of 2/3 of the members present at the meeting. So we're changing, the amendment would say change to a meeting of the council shall stand adjourned at 3 hours after its commencement unless otherwise determined by a vote of 2/3 of the members present at the meeting.
And that's just a notice.
That's just a notice at this point, and basically, it's more or less the same as what meetings used to start at 7, so it went 3 hours, so I think it's in our things, and 10 o'clock, where now we just more or less backed it up to say 3 hours, and starting at 5 and go to 3, and
the
council.
same public
It's the same as, same idea.
Councillor Bernard, did you have your button pressed there? or-
Yeah, I think
Councillor
it's
Kate?
just cleaning up the old language.
Yeah,
and all this,
that's all we're doing, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on request for the 2023 Canada Games host. Or have we gotten permission for another committee member?
On that?
That's a good question. We do have a request in, I
The
believe.
resolution went through.
Yes, yeah.
And I went to the meeting. And if you look around the table, there's Herbie McNeil, there's Johnny Morrison.
Don't know any of these people.
Yep, they're all from Charlottetown. And they said that if Mr. McNeely is, or McFeely, who's the council?
Feeling, Brian.
Yeah, that if there is an issue where he comes into conflict, that he will have to leave the meeting. So they said that we'll keep the status quo.
So just those three you named, are they on it now?
No, she's talking about sitting on
Moving into closed section as per section 119, is it E? Word is decision,
Summerside had two.
event that we're going to go into,
Because
but it's section 119E,
the
correct?
co-chair being
Is the
Brian.
catch-all, that's fine, that's what we use.
Yeah, no.
So I brought it
just
up.
wanted to know where it was, yeah.
I
we
brought it
talked
up,
about it.
and their response was that the composition of the committee is already set in the bylaws, and I moved to put it on the, to change it, and they didn't go with it.
That's all, just wanted to know.
Yeah, no, it's, I should have followed up with that, but we're at one member. But again, the members around the table, a large number of them are from the Charlottetown area. Plus, when it comes down to it, it will be the money that each of the municipalities put on the table. That's where the rubber will hit the road, how much influence we'll have on what goes forward. Is that it,
That's it for
Councillor?
me, thank you.
So, motion,
Move into closed section, Your Worship, as per section 119E of the Municipal Government Act, Your Worship.
so we have to vote on that, all those in favor? This won't take long?
You need a motion first, Your Worship.
Yep, well, the motion is to, moved by Councillor Rivard, seconded by Councillor Ramsey. Move into a closed session. All those in favor? Okay. So we have to ask you to leave just